Today, we will be disassembling an original 1989 Game Boy. This unit is relatively dirty and needs some LCD panel repair, and in order to service the device, we will need to completely tear it down. With the Game Boy turned over, turned off, and any game cart removed, carefully remove the battery cover and pop out the 4 AA batteries if they are present. There are 6 tri-wing screws that hold the 2 case shells together, 2 within the battery compartment and 4 on the rear exterior. Carefully separate the 2 halves of the shell to reveal the ribbon connector. Using 2 fingers, gently depress on the ribbon with a rocking motion to remove it from the system board. Here's a quick view of the 2 system boards within the front and rear shell. Starting with the rear shell, there are 2 standard Phillips screws that hold the larger CPU board shown to the right, and 2 more that secure the headphone jack board. Remove the 2 Phillips screws on the headphone jack. Remove the Phillips screws securing the larger CPU board. Using a plastic spudger, gently pry to the right of the CPU board, moving to the center to pry, and then lift the board out of the shell, slowly holding the edges. Be careful not to bend the cables attaching the DC power converter board and slowly remove it from the shell. Here is a close-up of both sides of the main CPU logic board, which has the headphone jack and the power converter boards attached. Next, remove the power switch at the top of the rear shell. There are 4 Phillips screws holding the metal shielding in place. Remove these, and then remove the shielding from the shell. Next, we'll need to remove the 3 battery contacts within the battery compartment. The first is towards the top of the unit and is held in place with a tab that must be both depressed and pushed down to remove. There are 2 more towards the bottom of the battery compartment. Repeat the same process and remove the terminals from the battery compartment. Next, we'll remove the front LCD system board, which has a speaker attached. There are Phillips screws in these positions that must be removed. Slowly and carefully remove the LCD PCB by gently prying on all edges of the board to free it from the adhesive holding the LCD to the front shell. Do not force the removal of this board. Once the board has lifted from the shell, pull it and the speaker out of the shell. Depending on how grody your Game Boy is, you may need to lift the silicone pads for the D-pad from the PCB like I did. Gross. Don't pay any attention to those 3 staples stuck to the speaker. Thanks, childhood me. Remove the silicone for the A and B buttons and then remove the start and select silicone. Finally, flip over the front shell and remove the plastic D-pad and A and B buttons. Here's the front plastic screen protector that fell off due to rotted adhesive giving way. Now would be a great time to clean the case with rubbing alcohol using a stiff brush and use a cotton swab for the internal PCBs. Here's a look at the device finally cleaned. It turned out rather well. Reassembly is rather straightforward. It's basically the same process in reverse. Return the plastic buttons and the associated silicone. Place the speaker into the chassis first when returning the LCD PCB and then all of the screws. Throw the power button into place on the rear shell and then the metal shield, reinstalling the 4 Phillips screws. Pay attention to the battery contacts. They have been positioned here as they should be reinstalled. Here's a close-up of those battery terminal retention tabs. Reinstall the DC converter board first, then the CPU board, then the headphone PCB. Easily press the ribbon back into place, being sure not to crease the ribbon. Bring the 2 shell halves together and return the 6 tri-wing screws into the shell. With a little luck and some fresh batteries, power the system on and get back to gaming. That's it. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to receive notification of future content.